So, the AI revolution is here. And yeah, it's changing just about everything. But what if its biggest impact on your life isn't happening on a screen, but inside your mailbox? We're talking about your electricity bill. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden price of AI and why it might be costing you a whole lot more than you think.
It seems kind of random, right? I mean, how can a technology that lives up in the cloud, something that feels so digital, have such a direct and very real impact on your wallet? Well, that is the surprising connection we are going to unravel. Let's get right into it.
All right, let's start with something we can all relate to. You know that little jolt you get when you open your electricity bill and the number is way higher than you expected? If you felt that shock lately, you are definitely not alone. In some parts of the country, prices aren't just creeping up, they're absolutely surging.
Just take a look at these numbers. In a single year, residential electricity prices jumped 20% in Illinois, 12% in Ohio, 9% in Virginia. Now here's the kicker. What do these states have in common? They just happen to be some of the biggest hubs for data centers in the entire country. And believe me, that is not a coincidence.
And that right there brings us to the heart of the issue. We're talking about the massive, power-hungry data centers that are basically the engines of this whole AI revolution. To train something like ChatGPT, they use a mind-boggling amount of energy. And all of a sudden, they're putting a level of demand on our power grid that we have just never, ever seen before.
To really get your head around the scale of this, you need to know about a group called PJM Interconnection. Just think of it as the power grid's central command for a huge chunk of the country. It's the biggest grid in the US, serving 65 million people across 13 states. And yep, that includes many of these booming data center hotspots.
And here's what that shock to the system looks like. For 2 decades, 20 years, electricity demand in this country was basically flat. It was predictable, boring even. Utilities could plan for it years in advance. Then, bam, the AI boom hits, and that long flat line suddenly shoots straight for the moon. It is a massive, unprecedented spike that the industry was just not ready for.
So how in the world is the industry responding to this crazy, off-the-charts demand? Well, they're making a massive financial bet. It's a huge gamble on the future of AI, and it comes with an absolutely staggering price tag.
Get ready for this number. $16.6 billion. That is how much consumers, we're talking people like you and me living on that PJM grid, are going to have to pay over just 3 years. And what's it for? To lock in power for data centers that haven't even been built yet. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The grid's own independent watchdog, the folks whose job it is to keep things fair, they have a name for this. They call it a massive wealth transfer. Those are their words. They're essentially saying that regular people are being asked to subsidize the entire infrastructure for the tech industry's next gold rush. So just how big is this bet we're all making? PJM is forecasting 30 gigawatts of new demand, just from data centers. Now, what does a number like 30 gigawatts even mean? Well, it's enough electricity to power more than 24 million homes. Just let that sink in. That is the incredible scale we are talking about. And this entire thing, all these billions of dollars, it all hinges on one massive question. What if they're wrong? What happens if this AI gold rush is just a bubble and all that promised demand never actually shows up? And this isn't just some wild hypothetical. You've got major players inside the energy industry who are sounding the alarm. The CEO of Constellation Energy, one of the biggest power producers in the country, said it plainly. He said, "I think the load is being overstated. We need to pump the brakes here."
And he is not alone. The CEO of another energy giant, Vistra Corp, said the exact same thing. He warned that this data center demand might be inflated by as much as 3 to 5 times, partly because developers are pitching the same huge project in multiple locations, which just artificially bloats all the forecasts.
So what's the real danger if these CEOs are right? Well, it comes down to a concept called stranded costs. This is the nightmare scenario where utilities spend billions building all these new power plants for an AI boom that never quite happens. And who gets left holding the bag for all that expensive, unneeded infrastructure? You guessed it, regular customers, us. But okay, this isn't a runaway train, at least not yet. Faced with this enormous risk, some utilities and regulators are starting to pump the brakes themselves, and they're putting new rules in place to try and protect consumers. AEP Ohio is a perfect example of this. They rolled out 2 pretty simple, common-sense rules. First, if you're a data center, you have to pay for 85% of the energy you reserve, whether you use it or not. Second, if you decide to cancel your project, you're going to pay a big exit fee. The goal is simple. Make sure these developers have some real financial skin in the game before asking for a massive grid upgrade.
And the result of these new rules? It was immediate, and it was dramatic. Before the rules, AEP Ohio was getting requests for 30 gigawatts of power. After the rules kicked in, that number was cut by more than half, all the way down to 13 gigawatts. It acted like a filter, instantly weeding out the serious projects from the purely speculative ones.
Now, as you can probably imagine, the data center industry was not exactly thrilled about this. Their lobbying groups have pushed back hard. They call these rules discriminatory, and they argue that their industry is being unfairly singled out for penalties that others just don't have to face.
And all of this brings us back to the fundamental question at the heart of this whole thing. As we race into this new AI-powered future, who should pay the price for the energy it needs? And maybe more importantly, who should be the one to carry all the risk?
Look, there is no doubt the AI revolution is going to need a massive, massive amount of power. But as we build out the infrastructure to support it, the core debate is really simple. Should the tech companies making billions and billions of dollars from AI be the ones to bear the financial risk of that expansion? Or should that risk fall on the shoulders of millions of ordinary consumers? That's the billion-dollar question that's being decided right now, whether we realize it or not.